My name's Paul Andrews and I'm gonna tell you about how my marriage and family got wrecked by my ex-wife's lack of personal hygiene. Her name's Sarah Ridgway Andrews and we met on a blind date set up by some friends. She had just finished college and was working at First United National Bank, using her business management degree to get into their associate management program. I had just started at Allied Accounting and was new in town, so my coworker Steve hooked us up on a double date with him and Brenda. So, Sarah and I have been dating for like 6 months now, and we both realized that we actually have some stuff in common. Nothing quite like the thrill of going on a blind date with an accountant and a business intern, right? It was pretty clear from the get-go that we were both on the same page about not getting down and dirty that night. I mean, I wouldn't have minded if this average-looking blonde chick got a little handsy, but she was being all coy and skittish, avoiding my touch like the plague. If she had any curves, she was definitely hiding them under that frumpy sweater and long skirt. Yo, me and my homie had a real deep chat about our career goals. Turns out, we both have similar dreams for the future. We both grew up in middle-class families in small towns before making it big in the city. I want to be my own boss and put my accounting degree to good use by spotting good deals. She's more about that stable life, climbing the corporate ladder and moving up, except for a couple times when she took some time off. Taking time off to have kids definitely boosted my confidence that I might actually get laid one day, maybe even a few times. The night ended with me walking her back to her place, where she gave me a quick hug and thanked me for the night. It was better than just drinking beer alone in my tiny apartment. On Monday, Steve came into my office and greeted me. I joked, "You must have really chilled out with Brenda on Saturday night to give me a high five." Steve grinned and said, "Yeah, everything was good. Hey, guess what? Sarah was totally gushing about you to Brenda on Saturday night. She thinks you're pretty awesome and wants you to give her a call. It's like we're back in junior high, right?" The evening was nice, but I wasn't completely blown away. I might give her a call though. Sarah seems to think we'd make a great couple. After a few months of dating, I finally saw what was under those baggy clothes. Turns out, she's a total knockout. Check out this hottie with big boobs, a flat tummy, and perfect hips that drove me wild. Her ass was just too good to resist as she got up from my bed to go to the bathroom. She told me that in high school, she blossomed into a beautiful woman, but was constantly harassed by guys. She tried to dress modestly to avoid all the unwanted attention. But now, we have a great sex life and a strong personal connection built on admiration, trust, and care. Once we found each other, getting married was a no-brainer. We had 2 kids, Hannah and Miranda. Our sex life was awesome before and even better after having kids. We got a basic house and a minivan. Sarah was climbing the career ladder, taking on more responsibilities. I was excelling at Allied Accounting and got a leave of absence to get my CPA. Mr. Carrot, the owner, mentored me and taught me more than any book or course could. One day after work, he asked me to go to it. During lunch with him, he mentioned that he's in talks to sell the company to a big accounting group. He told me, "Paul, you're my top employee, but you won't do well under the new boss. I think you should bail on Allied before they take over and start your own thing. They'll crush your entrepreneurial vibe and you'll be miserable going to work every day. You've got that entrepreneurial spark in you that you need to unleash. Start thinking about your future and I'll help you take some clients with you when you go, so you're not left high and dry." Man, I was totally caught off guard when he offered me the job. All I could say was thank you to the guy I look up to and respect. Sarah and I couldn't stop talking about it all weekend. She told me not to just settle for being an employee at the new company. She said to forget about playing it safe and aim for a promotion in a few years. She thinks I could make some serious bank as an accountant at a big company. But honestly, if that's gonna be my life for the next 35 years, I think I'll start hating all those debits and credits. Every day is my shot to break free from the same old routine and chase after my dreams. I'm gonna start by working from home to build up my client base, and then I'll make the move to the office. Paul thinks it's a bad idea, saying we have 2 little kids and can't afford to take any more risks. But I can't wait until I'm old and grey to take a chance. It's now or never for me. Sarah frowned and said she doesn't approve, but she can't stop me. Just make sure this plan works, or she'll be really mad at me. Don't count on me to fund this mess. I'm getting a new checking account for my money. I'll cover half of the bills, you better handle the rest. I'll try my best, Sarah, I replied, but deep down I wanted to add, and thanks for nothing. She composed herself and told me she wouldn't help with any loans for my new business. If things go south, she wants to stay out of it. Since she acted like a jerk, I had no interest in involving her. Yo, I know Sarah's been holding it down at the bank, but I'm confident she'll still be around once I start raking in the dough in the coming year. Things got a bit rough though, with Sarah bringing in a steady income while my contributions were hit or miss. By the end of year 2, I was making slightly more than Sarah, but she wanted me to have a consistent monthly income. My business model was shifting as I got more into advising on potential deals rather than just tracking money in and out. It was what I wanted to do, and I was killing it. So, basically, I've been hustling since I was making more cash than Sarah. I decided to put more money into my startup business, setting my own income at Sarah's level and investing even more on top of that. One thing I used to do was, if I saw a great opportunity, I'd cut or even waive my consulting fee in exchange for a piece of the profits. I'd usually take a 5% to 15% ownership for my consulting services and lower the fees for handling their monthly accounting. It was a win-win situation for both of us, as it reduced the amount of startup capital needed. I reached out to some possible clients and offered them my advice and recommendations whenever they needed it. I couldn't really do a formal audit of the company since I was an investor, but honestly, that worked out fine for me. The company's value was going up way faster than the accounting fees I was missing out on. Plus, they had the option to buy me out whenever they wanted, based on a market value formula we agreed upon. The only person who wasn't feeling this deal was Sarah. She was not vibing with the fact that I was putting money into startups, so I decided to call it quits. Man, when I was explaining it to her, my accounting firm's revenues weren't hitting the mark like they expected. Instead of making bank, I was actually building up my net worth, but it wasn't reflecting on my balance sheet because the shares I bought were valued at the original purchase price, which was pretty low. Thanks to my badass team, I've been able to spend more time with my kids. But let me tell you, 3 months into tax season and things took a turn. I made sure not to miss a single concert or event. So there was this sports thing we were in, and I handled all the parent-teacher meetings without Sarah. Those were good times, the kids were happy, and Sarah and I were doing pretty well for our age because she's smart and works hard. Sarah got promoted to assistant VP at the bank, reporting to a bunch of people. She thought we should get a bigger and fancier house to match her new job, but I said we should hold off for now, which she did until later. On Saturday, she went to that exhibition and signed a contract to move. I was pissed off but couldn't do anything about it. Thanks to my connections at the Chamber of Commerce, I became buddies with some loan officers at her bank. They let slip that Sarah calls me the little accountant. This disrespect started showing up at home, with her making snide comments about other accounting firms while I just sat there like a bump on a log. She didn't ask me to join her at the Christmas party at the bank or the summer shindig, not that I wanted to anyway. I thought we were having a good time, but I got the feeling she didn't want me around professionally. It's time to have a chat about our relationship. So, on Saturday afternoon, I caught her in the living room and asked her to sit down with me for a bit. She gave me a dirty look and said it could wait because she needed to do some laundry. I thanked her but insisted we needed to talk about it. She said we could wait until evening and asked if I could make time for a 15-minute chat in her schedule. As she walked away, I heard her say yes. Then she went back to work. I didn't mention it until later in the day because I wanted to show how she ignores me and doesn't care about what I want. When I tried to talk to her after the kids went to bed, she was too tired. Sunday morning was no good either, with the kids getting ready for Sunday school and then going to church together. While the girls were outside playing with the neighbors, I saw her grab her bag and start heading for the door. I stopped her and asked if she had a few minutes. She was like, "Why you keep bugging me all weekend? You act like a little kid wanting attention from his mom. Can't you see I'm leaving to help my mom with her checkbook? I'll be back in an hour, can't it wait that long? It's been a whole day since I asked for just 15 minutes of your time. I can wait another hour." 4 hours went by and she finally came home, went straight to the kitchen to cook dinner. Of course, I didn't let her talk until we finished eating. "Hey, I think it's time we had a chat." I can see you're getting pissed off, but I feel like we're drifting apart and it's freaking me out about our marriage. Sarah's fork made a loud noise on her plate and the girls all looked over at me. We don't communicate like we used to, and I feel like you don't appreciate me as your husband. We need to sort this out before it blows up into a big issue. Through clenched teeth, she snapped back, "This is not the right time or place for this conversation. I can't believe you brought this up in front of the girls, Sarah. You should be ashamed of yourself for ignoring me for 30 hours after I asked to talk. You've shut me out once again. Is there something going on that I should know about?" She just got up, took her plate to the kitchen, and left the house. Well, that conversation was shorter than I thought. My daughters were shocked. Miranda asked if we were all getting divorced, tears in his eyes. I calmly replied, "No, honey, no one is. Hey, remember how you and your sister used to fight sometimes? Well, just like siblings, moms and dads can argue too. But that doesn't mean we don't love each other, or love you and Hannah any less. Mom didn't run away, she just needed some space. They seemed to work things out, but I wasn't convinced. I cleaned up the kitchen, did some work in the office, then got the girls and myself to bed. I went to the bedroom thinking, if she doesn't like it, she can sleep on the sofa. It was almost midnight when she finally came in. She took off her clothes in the bedroom and came over to the bed. I lifted the blanket for her to get in, and she snuggled up to me. She said, "I'm not saying I was wrong, but I'll try to treat you with the respect I expect from my husband." I hugged her and whispered, "I think that's great. I want to be the best husband for you." This helped calm things down in the house for a while. A few years later, she got promoted to Vice President of Regulatory Compliance, which meant she had to study and make sure the bank followed all the rules. The rules and regulations of the FDIC, the Federal Reserve, and the controller of the currency were all up in her face. She thought she was the perfect fit for the job because in her eyes, no move could be made unless it was given the green light by the right authority. My approach is totally different. If there ain't a rule against it, then it's all good in my book. You think this caused some tension in the family? Thank goodness she wasn't aware of my investments. They were legit, but fiscal bigwigs like her wouldn't have been too happy about it. By this time, she started going to bachelorette parties on Tuesdays. The more she went to these parties, the later she would come back home. The kids were already 16 and 14 years old, so they didn't need a babysitter anymore, but they still needed their parents around. I was always there for them. One Tuesday night, I heard her swearing from the master bathroom and went upstairs to see what was going on. She was standing at the sink, yelling, "Damn, damn, damn. What's wrong?" she snarled, like I had left something in the sink. "Shit, my wedding ring just fell into the sink. Do you think you can fish it out or should I just call a plumber?" I didn't appreciate her hinting at my lack of skills when she looked under the sink. I told her if it's stuck in the pipe, I can get it out in a minute. But she responded as if I had purposely dropped it, saying she doesn't need it today anyway. I was shocked when she mentioned not needing it for a date. This got me worried and I needed more information ASAP. Got it, with her current attitude it's best to just keep quiet and watch out. I noticed she had gone to the bedroom and was putting on some new sexy thong lingerie I hadn't seen before. She was trying to avoid me, acting like she was just getting ready for a girls' night out on a regular Tuesday. "Don't you remember?" she snapped, frustrated that I didn't seem to be getting anywhere. I went to the garage to grab some pliers to fix the siphon, and when I came back she had sneaked out of the house without a word, since the drain was on her side. So, I was fixing the sink and had to clear out a bunch of her stuff from underneath before I could get to the trap. I was taken aback when I found a regular old brown toilet paper box. But when I opened it up, I found an enema kit inside. What the heck? She's always going on about her irritable bowel syndrome and diarrhea, but I never knew she needed to douche. As I went through the contents, I noticed the enema nozzle was wet. This is not good. Why, I know, it's probably true that the husband is always the last to know. But hey, what do I really know, right? Who knows? When I'm working on a new business plan, I always try to gather as much info as possible about the company, both the good and the bad. That's exactly what I'll do. I'll start my research right now. Well, not quite yet, since I still need to crawl under the sink to find her damn ring. Maybe she'll need it, maybe she won't. Time will tell. I grabbed a pencil and marked the spot on the floor where the brown box was. I wanted to see if she was gonna move it within the next week. I even snapped a pic of a couple of the items to check if she put the set back in the box the way I had it. She came back home around midnight, stripped down, closed the bathroom door, and hopped in the shower. I tried to play it cool like I was asleep, but my heart was racing when she touched my chest. She plopped into bed so hard that I had to pretend I had just woken up. Then I heard her giggle softly. The next morning, I got up early. I couldn't sleep, so I made sure to close the bathroom door before showering. I wanted to check the brown box, but it had been moved. The douche tip was still wet, and the box was slightly out of place. Before going for a walk at night and getting ready for bed, I noticed someone was having some intense sex using a Ziploc bag. I took off a smelly thong and sent it to be tested for any bodily fluids. Being an accountant, I knew all about property distribution. I've done a bunch of evaluations for divorcing couples. Sarah gets to keep the house until the kids finish college, and I'll have to fork over some child support. I won't be able to see them as much as I do now. If my investments don't count towards child support, then I might not pay Sarah. She thinks they're useless, just like I do. I'm not about to pay for a house where she can have a good time with some other dude while my kids are neglected. This whole situation shouldn't be happening right now. Once I got the info I needed, I started making a game plan. The main thing for me was to keep custody of my girls. I can always make money, I've shown that. I've shown I'm a good dad, now I just need to prove she's a bad mom. The idea of her being toxic crossed my mind, not physically, but emotionally. Sarah is a perfectionist, she expects nothing but the best from her employees and family. When things go wrong, she loses it. The smallest problems turn into big dramas for her. When she gets angry, she gets mean to her employees, me, and the rest of us. Hey guys, I'm using her tricks to make the kids want to stick with me after the divorce. I turned off her alarm clock so she'd oversleep and be late for work. The plan is for the kids to think she's sleeping in and want to stay with me. When they asked where Mom was, I told them she was still sleeping because she was up late and busy. They didn't question it, they love sleeping in too. So I was creeping on her convo on her phone mad late at night, and then I started watching her videos on mute hoping her phone would die before she woke up. She had a big meeting with her staff on Wednesday that she said was crucial. An hour later, I hear her scream my name. Turns out, she overslept because of me. I guess she was getting busy with some dude last night. I dipped into the garage to avoid her yelling, and saw that one of the tires was flat. The stupid warning light on her damn Lexus drives her crazy. She freaks out when some alert pops up on her screen. She'll lose it if she has to stare at that screen all the way to work. Poor Hannah and Miranda felt her anger too. She was running around the house trying to get dressed, do her hair, and put on makeup all at once. Meanwhile, in the garage, I switched the door setting to lock so it wouldn't open like it usually does when leaving. She tried to open the door without realizing it was locked, and ended up slamming into it. We were walking towards the garage when Sarah accidentally drove into the garage door, crushing the bottom panels. We saw a woman inside screaming and hitting the steering wheel as she tried to move the Lexus forward. I fixed the panels and lifted the door, which made a terrible squeaking noise. Sarah then sped out of the garage, almost hitting a mailbox. This is going to be more fun than I expected. I wonder what she'll do when she realizes her phone is dead and she can't call the office. The less I hear about her, the better. I hugged Hannah and Miranda and told them that Mom is a bit crazy. Man, she's so stressed out right now. She'll be feeling better once she gets home tonight. She still loves you, but not so much me. After that, we all had a good laugh. The alarm clock in our bedroom was cranked up to full volume. I made sure she set the alarm, unlike my wife. I actually made it to work on time this morning. My employees always know it's gonna be a good day when they hear me whistling as I walk in the door. I was in a great mood until 10 a.m. When my phone started buzzing so loud it almost fell off the table, I thought, oh man, it must be my wife calling. I answered, "Good morning, dear," but before I could say anything else, she started cursing up a storm. She yelled, "Get your butt over here and fix my tire." I almost crashed driving this death trap. If you had just let me take the Mercedes, we wouldn't be in this mess. Now, fix it. I replied casually, you have AAA insurance, just call them and they'll take care of it. Her response: screw you. Since this morning was going great, I told my assistant that I had some stuff to take care of and would be back after lunch. First thing I did was go to a security store and buy some small cameras for the house and a voice recorder to hide in her purse. I needed to suss out my enemies and know what they were up to. Next stop was heading back home and setting up the cameras in the living room and our bedroom. I rigged up the panels in the garage, but they weren't exactly pretty. They were screaming, "Look at me," so that all the neighbors could see. So when I got back to work, I went through all my personal banking and investment stuff. We only had one credit card together, so I cancelled that. We had a joint bank account for household stuff, so I kept it open but made sure to put half in every payday. I was making dinner when I heard Sarah come home. She practically busted down the door. Both the girls were already at the kitchen table. The witch came at me all angry like and yelled, "I've never had such a crappy day. I'm gonna go upstairs and relax in my bath." The girls and I had a quiet dinner, whispering like we were 12-year-olds. I went upstairs and asked her if she wanted dinner, and she chucked a bar of soap at me, growling, "If I wanted dinner, I would have told you. Now leave me be." This was the perfect moment to sneak a little cut in her purse and slip the recorder inside. I went downstairs and crashed on the couch, falling asleep. I was in the living room and didn't want to wake up in the same bed as her when her alarm blasted at full volume the next morning. The latest rap song blasting from the alarm clock radio was followed by my wife's loud "Your mother" and the screams of our two scared kids. It was like a U.S. Marine sergeant couldn't make as much noise as our chaotic morning. While Sarah was getting ready in the bathroom, I snuck off to the garage to grab some dark brown paint. Man, I got grease all over the seat of her car from my lawnmower when she sat on it on her way to work. People might think she had an accident or something, but it was just a prank. She was so pissed off, just like the night before. I even made sure to smear the skirt she wore the day before to make it look legit. I was hoping she'd blame it on her assistant Linda, who's married to one of my buddies. Linda called me up and told me how Sarah found her stained skirt. She was fuming, man. Yo, Hurricane Sarah is getting stronger and we all gotta be on high alert for the next few days. Ever since I stopped messing with her, all sorts of weird stuff started happening. Like, one of her diamond earrings went missing from the table, her dress from last Tuesday had a red wine stain she didn't even remember getting, and the lining on her fave shoe started peeling off. And get this, her password book was where I knew it was, so a bunch of her accounts locked her out. When she was driving her Lexus, it kept acting up when she turned a corner or hit the brakes. It's like she's cursed or something. Her car's wheel would act up every now and then, causing little problems for her constantly. It felt like she was slowly being worn down, bit by bit. We are halfway through the struggle now, with the biggest challenge coming up on Tuesday. After finishing work, she went home to quickly change before heading to a bachelorette party. She didn't talk to anyone in the house and made sure to lock the bathroom door before getting undressed. Everything seemed to be like the previous Tuesday, except for the fact that I was secretly watching her. Okay, so I was tracking her on her phone and saw that she first went to Bonefish Grill. Then she hit up O'Hara's dance bar. I didn't care about what she was doing in the club, I was more interested in who she was leaving with. I had been keeping an eye on her from the house, so I hopped in my car and started following her to her next spot. Just as I was finishing up my coffee in the parking lot, Sarah and some dude came out holding hands. They hugged and kissed for a while. Before they split up, he took off in his car and she followed. I trailed behind them for a bit, letting the tracker do its thing. They hauled the money bags to Motel Number 6 by the highway. I watched as they went into a room with an outside entrance. Knowing they'd be there a while, I parked in the lot and jotted down her boyfriend's car's make, model, and license plate number. In the dimly lit lot, I let some air out of the driver's side front tire to mess with them. So I sent another signal for low tire pressure to show up on the dashboard. There was a truck in the parking lot, so I grabbed some grease and smeared it on the windshield. I knew she would switch on the wipers first thing, making the whole windshield a smeared mess. It'll be fun to hear what was recorded on her voice recorder in her purse tomorrow. The info I wanted will be mine, and I'm only halfway to my goal of messing things up. Around 1 o'clock in the morning, she entered the bedroom, got undressed and headed into the bathroom, slamming the door behind me. It was definitely time for a shower and a little shake. I didn't even bother touching my alarm clock or phone that night. I wanted everything to seem totally random. A few hours later, after she was already snoring, I quietly got out of bed, grabbed a recorder from her purse, and plugged it into my laptop to charge. Then I put it back in her purse. The next morning, when Sarah and the girls were out, I listened to the recording. It was pretty loud at dinner and at the club, but the voice recorder caught everything. So, this chick was totally on point with spying on what goes down at Motel 6. I figured out that her dude's name was Keith and they were totally into each other. I also found out that they would party it up every Tuesday night and sneak off to the Hyatt every other Thursday while they were supposed to be working. It was Sarah's turn to book a room at the Hyatt and they couldn't help but giggle at the clueless bank president. They would use their work credit cards to cover their fancy hookups at the Hyatt since the bank's main office was nearby. They were always pulling this sneaky move. Hey, are you gonna ditch your boring accountant hubby once Miranda heads off to college? I adore my girls, but I ain't about to waste my prime years chasing soccer balls with them. He's a top-notch mom, so I'm grateful for that, gives me more time to hang out with you. I don't know what it is, but I can't stand being around him anymore. I've tried everything to help him succeed, but he's just not interested. Just a regular guy with no ambition, he's just drifting through life. If you can't stand him, why not dump him now? Make him cough up alimony and come hang out with me instead. She joked that if she divorced him, she'd still have to shell out for childcare, a maid, and a cook. But now her wimp does all that for free and contributes to their shared bank account. She doesn't have to cover as many bills and can stash away a big chunk of her paycheck where he'll never find it. So, in the divorce, I've been using the money for household stuff while also saving up on the side. Speaking of divorces, when are you finally going to dump your cold-hearted wife? That date, my friend, is set in stone. Her dad made me sign a prenup before we got hitched. I only agreed when we added a clause saying it expires after 20 years. Just 3 more years and I'll be getting half of her massive stock portfolio. She laughed and said, "See, the timing is perfect. Your prenup ends right around the time our daughter Miranda goes off to college. Let's both bounce." After listening to that convo, I couldn't believe there were such selfish and backstabbing people like them on this planet. You know what, they deserve each other. They are gonna have a rough time together trying to screw each other over in bed and with money. They were paranoid about getting caught, taking turns booking a room at the Hyatt Hotel every other week so they wouldn't raise suspicion by renting a room more than once a month. Before she left, she made sure to check all the tires and that the garage door was open. But man, she was just so vile. The disrespect was obvious to me and the girls. The report confirmed that there were biological traces on those thongs. Now I had enough evidence to go to a lawyer and start the divorce process. I told my lawyer, Jeff Green, to ask for full custody of the girls since I was the one who had been in contact with them the most. Judging by their mother's behavior, it's doubtful that the girls would even want to talk to her. Jeff said he would add this to the plan, but it would be tough. I suggested a plan where I would keep the house. We agreed to split everything 50-50ths until we sold it after both our daughters went off to college. We are keeping our own investments and retirement funds since I kept my taxable income similar to hers. Since neither of us has to pay child support, she has to pay me regular child care benefits, including college tuition. We saved up enough for tuition, housing, books, and food, but not for extra stuff like going out. When she became a full-time VP, she joined the bank's deferred compensation program. I'll leave that account alone in case she wants my share. So I was investing with my partner when it hit me that I need to start saving up some cash in case me and her split up. So I started stashing away some money and valuables in a storage unit. I made sure to back up all my important files on an external hard drive, just in case things got messy. I was planning on keeping the house in the divorce, but I was worried about how Sarah would react when she got served. So I listened to my lawyer and hired a PI to dig up dirt on this guy Keith she was seeing. Gotta be prepared for anything, right? I hit him up with the info I had on the license plate number. Every year, towards the end of the third quarter, the bank starts working on the budget for the next year. All the employees gotta fill out surveys and each department has to review their work and budget. After all that, the top dogs in management throw a fancy dinner and dance at the Hyatt Hotel. It's a black tie affair for the big shots and their partners, and a lot of people there usually book a room for the night. Sarah told me about this thing at the Hyatt Hotel ages ago, but by the time she joined the group, I was already out. She kept bringing it up, saying I could have been part of it if I was more successful. She thought it would give me a kick, but I couldn't care less. I was sick of these people. I even snooped through her stuff, looking for dirt on her cheating. Just before the event, I stumbled upon a showbox tucked away. Okay, so I was digging through her closet and found these super fancy Jimmy Choo evening shoes. No receipt, so I googled the price and they were over $1,000. The problem was, I had a meeting in a few days and needed to figure out how to handle it. I thought about swapping the Choo shoes for some beat-up yard boots or Crocs, but instead I took them to a shop, put the heel in a vise and carefully turned it. So, I found these shoes with a high heel all crooked to the side, so I fixed them up and put them back where they were. Then I found this brown box and got a lesson in handling delicate stuff. The day before the party, the detective called me in and dropped the bomb that Sarah's fling was with Keith Miller, a big shot at the bank where she works. I was like, damn, this could mess up their jobs even though they're not in the same department. We gotta make sure the credit department is following all the rules and regulations, and don't forget about the no hooking up policy between co-workers. They are skating on thin ice. I gave him some good info and asked him to set up some cameras at the senior management meeting at the Hyatt on Friday night. He already had a pic of Sarah, so I asked him to film her walking and dancing. We were both stoked. He got another check, and I got some solid intel to seal the deal for our marriage. The movie I saw on Friday night was dope. OMG, it was so funny. The detective couldn't stop laughing the entire time we were watching. She was walking like she was wasted, trying to balance on those tiny heels that were all crooked. She kept stumbling and crashing into tables and chairs. She even knocked over 2 bottles of red wine at one point. I'm definitely gonna send this to America's Funniest Videos once Sarah signs the release. And of course, Sarah and Keith disappeared to his room to hook up all night. Man, everything was caught on camera with a tiny little thing slid under the hotel door. It's crazy how much technology has changed our lives, right? Even though Sarah came back home early on Saturday, we didn't see her until late Sunday morning. She should have gone to church that morning, but she just stayed home. Sarah used to always come back from work on Wednesday afternoons exhausted. I guess it was because of her late classes on Tuesday nights. As soon as she walked in the door, she headed straight for the bath. On Wednesday, things were a bit off. I was gonna adjust the hot water level in her bath, but she got all annoyed as if I was bothering her. So, I just stood there as she tried to get the water temperature just right by turning on the tap. While she was messing with the water, I heard the sink running and figured she was washing up. I went to the utility room where all the water lines are connected, each with their own faucet and a control panel on the wall. I made a quick move to turn off the hot water before things got too heated. I was chilling in the bathroom, letting the cold water run into the tub. When the water stopped, I turned the hot water back on. Suddenly, I heard a terrible sound. My wife cursed as she slipped into the cold water bath. The bubbles made the water slippery and she struggled to get out. When I ran in to help, she ended up ripping the towel rack off the wall in her attempt to escape. I had to crawl under to assist her. Man, that cold shower was brutal. I was trying so hard not to burst out laughing. Eventually, I managed to yank the faucet out, swearing, slipping, trembling, and soaked. And of course, she slapped me because there was no hot water left. Both girls dashed into the bathroom and caught a glimpse of their naked mom having a meltdown. Then she went off on her daughters, blaming them for using up all the hot water. She was so mad she couldn't relax like she wanted to. She cursed them out and stomped off to the bedroom to get dressed. The girls started crying and ran to her to explain that they didn't use hot water, but she yelled at them to shut up and said she didn't want to hear their excuses. She told them to get out of her sight, and they ran away crying. It was worse than I expected. I didn't think she would be so angry at them, only at me. I really messed up by not considering where her anger would be directed. Then she turned to me and asked what I was looking at. She called me a goat and told me to fix her bathtub. She asked if I could do at least one simple thing in her house. I took her to the bathtub and turned the hot water back on because she was feeling really hot. I held her hand and splashed some hot water on her, telling her she had plenty of hot water. I stared at her for a moment without saying anything, then went out to dinner with the girls at a different place. During dinner, I was cooking while the girls were crying, so I pulled over a few blocks away to comfort them. I told them how sorry I was that they had to hear that. I reassured them that they didn't deserve it, they are amazing kids and I care about them a lot. I'm proud of you. Please forgive your mom for what she did, and forgive me for letting it happen. I know I shouldn't have let it go down like that. It did seem to calm them down though, and it made me realize I need to be careful when it comes to keeping us separate from Sarah. It was getting too intense messing with her. By the time we got back home, it was bedtime. I just left the kitchen stuff out and crashed on the couch in the living room. In the middle of the night, I felt like something evil was creeping up on me, and then it happened. Sarah was standing there, staring at me. Yep, that's all I could manage to say. She just stood there, and then she finally spoke. She said I shouldn't have yelled at the girls, it wasn't their fault. I must have messed up something over the last month. I've been so stressed and upset about everything: flat tires, broken garage doors, faulty shoes, every little thing is getting on my nerves. I need to get my act together. After saying this, she turned and went back upstairs. I think that's all she wanted to say to me. The next week, I got it. Hey, guess what? One of my business partners hooked me up with a sweet deal. He had a 2-bedroom apartment in Green Ridge, Colorado, and asked if I wanted to rent it. It was the week between Christmas and New Year's and the lease was for a year. But the tenants had to back out, so my friend put down a deposit and offered to rent it to me at half price. I said I'd think about it. The girls were upset after their mom Sarah went off on them. She apologized, but her words still stung. I asked them, what do you think? Hey, so I asked them if they wanted to come skiing with me at Green Ridge for a week, and they were totally into it. They came running up to me, gave me a kiss on the cheek, and hugged me. That night, I went ahead and booked plane tickets for the 4 of us to Denver and back. I wanted to give Sarah one more shot at saving our marriage by spending time together as a family. I even paid extra for the tickets so we could cancel if needed. Sarah went home to freshen up, changed into some nice clothes, and came down for dinner. I asked one of the kids to see if her mom wanted to join us on the ski trip, and they picked Hannah. Hey, so Hannah blabbed because she can't keep a secret to save her life. She told me that mom and dad got a dope 2-bedroom spot in Green Ridge for Christmas and New Year. You gotta come through, it's gonna be lit. Sarah was about to say something, but then she zoned out. Her eyebrows shot up and she had this smug look on her face. She was like, I'd love to, babe, but it's year end and the bank needs all the money sorted by December 31st. Sorry, but I gotta stay in the city for this. I feel bad that Hannah was let down and Sarah came up with a lame excuse to skip the invite. Just so you know, the compliance department has zero involvement in the bank's financials. No money, no balancing act. Anyone could figure that out, no need to be a financial expert. The reason she looked surprised and smirked was because she saw an opportunity to chill for 7. Man, those nights in our bedroom with that jerk Keith. The next week, my private investigator upgraded the cameras to Wi-Fi so I could see what was going on while I was in Colorado. There was some drama about to go down at home that I didn't want to miss. Not just the usual cheating stuff, but something else. The day we left for Colorado, I added some jalapeno pepper juice to her enema tip for some spicy action later. If she wanted hot sex, she was definitely going to get it. Before we headed to the airport, Sarah, my ex, was all nice and told me to be careful and to give the kids a hug. I loved the quick hug and kiss from Sarah, and when I told her I love you, she quickly replied with I love you too. The plane and rental car rides to the condo were pretty boring. Hannah and Miranda had never been to the Rocky Mountains, so they went out to the deck to check out the view and smell the pine trees. I quickly got my computer set up and connected to the Wi-Fi camera at home. Sarah got to the house at 6 o'clock in the evening and headed straight to the main bathroom for her usual routine. I didn't need a camera in there. Man, I didn't give a crap about their drama. I could see the hallway, living room, and kitchen from where I was. Then out of nowhere, Sarah comes tumbling down the stairs and screams like she's on fire. Turns out she accidentally used her tube of preparation H that had jalapeno juice on it. Her face was all red and twisted in pain. I couldn't help but think about how much my private investigator friend would have enjoyed seeing this mess. Guess Keith won't be coming over anytime soon. Wonder how long it'll take for Sarah to bounce back from this. It would suck if they couldn't get it on all week while the kids and I were out. It was a bummer that the three of us went to downtown Breen Ridge, all decked out for Christmas, to grab some pizza. It was so pretty with all the snow everywhere. After we chowed down on the pizza, we were heading back to the condo when the girls heard some music they were into and tracked it down. Turns out it was a teen club meant to keep teenagers entertained while their parents had a good time. "Dad, can we go somewhere else?" Hannah asked. I said sure, because these girls have been through a lot lately. The dance floor was packed and everyone seemed to be having a good time. The girls wanted to stay, but I wasn't about to leave them alone on their first night in a new city. I found a table away from the DJ and told my daughters to check in on me every now and then. It worked out well for me because I could read my emails without feeling like they were ignoring me. It didn't take them long to catch the boys' attention and start dancing, laughing, and chatting. They would glance back at me and I would give them a thumbs up with my Diet Coke to show them everything was cool. There were lots of parents there watching over their kids. There was this hot woman on the other side of the dance floor who caught my eye as we both searched for our kids. We locked eyes and smiled at each other. This babe had two boys who kept coming to her for cash, snacks, or soda. My girls were keeping busy and having a good time. Chilling with them instead of playing ball, why no? So I finished typing my message, glanced up, and spotted a hot chick strolling my way. All the dudes were checking her out too. She had on these tight ski pants that were practically see-through, showing off the freckles on her booty. Her sweater was hugging her curves and she looked all cozy despite the freezing cold. She came over to my table and goes, "You must be Hannah and Miranda's dad. Why don't you come hang with your fam instead of chilling here?" Hey, I tried to play it cool, but I was really happy to meet you. My girls have good instincts, that's why they wanted to sit with you. I'm Donna, and I have two boys, Zach and Michael, who are 16 and 14. They'll be legal adults before we know it. We all laughed when we realized they are the same age as your girls. I've been watching your girls and chatting with them, they are so sweet. You must be proud of them. Of course I am proud of my kids too. So, do your boys always behave so well, or is it just because you're keeping a close eye on them? Donna chuckled, "You're quite the observant one. I'm glad to see a dad who pays as much attention to his kids as I do. I work from home, so I'm the one who sees them off in the morning and greets them when they come back. They are my top priority now, for both me and Donna and the boys. Today was their first day at Breen Ridge, and it didn't take long for the 14s to hit it off. Me and Donna figured out where and when we are hitting the slopes tomorrow morning. We decided to split up our celebrations so we can send off the skiers in the morning, grab breakfast together, then hit the slopes later on. Over the past week, me and Donna have been getting to know each other better and we both really hit it off. It felt good to open up to her about my issues with Sarah and my plan to divorce her without mentioning that I have feelings for Donna. I was trying to get custody of the girls for myself. I wasn't too happy about it, but I thought it was the best thing for them to be with me instead of that selfish Donna. Donna's been a widow since her husband got killed by a drunk driver 2 years ago. We both had a hard time forgiving people who messed up our lives. Just talking to someone who understood was really helpful for us. On our last night, Donna and I had dinner together without our teenagers. We spent the last half hour of the evening making out on the couch when the kids weren't around. By the end of the night. So, last week we all agreed that we needed to hang out more as a family. All us teenagers were on the same page. It was time to call it quits with Sarah. When we got back home, she looked worn out and beat. Maybe she should have just gone to Colorado with everyone else. We had a blast out there, especially watching my smoking hot wife. The first night in Colorado, I didn't even care what was happening back home. It didn't faze me at all. I told Jeff to handle all the paperwork and get it sorted. So, when I told the girls about me and Sarah splitting up, they weren't surprised. They noticed that me and Sarah were on the rocks for the past 6 months. They even saw the tension between me and Donna, comparing it to the drama between me and their mom. Hannah was the only one who asked the real questions: what's gonna happen to Miranda and me now? Where are we gonna go? I hugged both of them and told them that they've always been my world since day one, and that'll never change. In the divorce, I'm asking for full custody. Both of y'all and us three will stay in this house, go to the same school, hang out with the same friends. I'll keep cooking for you and being there for you. You can see your mom whenever you want. When it comes to the divorce, you get to pick who you live with. Whoever gets custody also gets the house until you'll go off to college. It's up to you, but just know that both me and your mom love you no matter what. All right, so you'll be staying in this house and at your school. Don't bother telling me right now who you want to stay with. It's a big decision and you've got plenty of time to figure it out. Use my car and go grab dinner so mom and I can chat. You probably don't want to be around for our convo today, which is fine. After I finished talking with the girls, I checked my phone to see who had been blowing it up with calls and texts. I had a good guess who it was, so instead of ignoring it, I answered. I decided to give Sarah a ring, but when she answered, the first thing out of her mouth wasn't a friendly hello. Nope, she started cursing up a storm that almost melted my phone. I just let her go off, ranting and raving and threatening, until she finally ran out of steam. There was no way I could get a word in edgewise, so I just let her growl. Eventually, she caught her breath and started in with the "Why did you do this to me, and why don't you love me anymore?" Especially after all the things she's done for me and the kids. She demanded I come over to talk about it, and then I heard a click. She must have hung up to come over. It's about time I woke up. She came storming in, charged at me like a wild animal, and yelled, "Why?" I coolly answered, "You've been seeing Keith Miller behind my back every Tuesday night for God knows how long. What did you think would happen? I offered you a fresh start by moving to Colorado, but you picked Keith over your family. You made your bed, now lie in it. Sarah, pack up your stuff and stay in a hotel while we figure things out. I'm not taking your crap anymore. Go out to the yard and burn them today. You can see the girls whenever you want once you check into the hotel. Get yourself a lawyer and figure out what I'm offering in the divorce. I think that's fair, but you need to decide what you want to do. In the meantime, don't bother me unless it's to schedule your appointments with the girls or get your things. From now on, we have nothing to talk about except our divorce." I went to my office, closed the door, and started hearing suitcases slamming against every surface, but I didn't hear what I wanted. I was crying and it was sad. I knew I never wanted to be with her again, and it turns out she felt the same way. The next thing on my to-do list was changing locks, resetting codes, and passwords. She was angry during the divorce proceedings. It wasn't because she still loved me and wanted to save the family. It seemed like she wanted to be the one who dumped me, not the other way around. She wanted everyone to know that she kicked out the weak accountant because he wasn't good enough for her, not because I kicked her out. She was cheating on me, so I was pretty pissed and filed for divorce. We both knew counseling wouldn't fix anything. We were just done with each other. All the good times we had together were gone. Luckily, I was able to get divorced, unlike a lot of other guys. My daughters, Hannah and Miranda, chose to live with me in our house. They only saw their mom once in a while and didn't want her bugging them about me. I barely talked to her and didn't really miss her. She was never there when she dropped off or picked up the girls. Sarah really didn't like me or my small accounting business, so she wanted nothing to do with it. She wanted to keep her 401k and deferred compensation funds, thinking I didn't know about them. She had to pay for childcare, and the bank's health insurance was better than mine. I didn't want her to find out I knew about her dating at Hyatt. I was saving that info for later. She took all the stylish furniture from the house, leaving us with just 3 items. Regular folks took whatever was left of it. Sarah left all the family photos, acting like we were supposed to worship them like some kind of shrine dedicated to her. I'm sure she had other money hidden somewhere, but I didn't really care. My main focus was my kids and my business. Everything else related to her was on the back burner. Then, out of nowhere, someone sent videos anonymously of Keith getting it on with Sarah, who was Keith's wife. Of course, this led to a sudden surge in legal expenses all over the city. The traders all met up in a fancy apartment in a trendy part of town. I'm curious to see how Donna and the kids will manage once they are out of the bedroom and dealing with life after the divorce. I had them over at my place for the weekend and we didn't get down and dirty because we are trying to show the kids how to be civil. But that doesn't mean we didn't cuddle and smooch a bit. Donna was just what the doctor ordered to help me forget about my failed marriage. We both know this thing between us is temporary. She's got her own place already and we haven't had any issues so far. But we do have 2 teenagers who are into each other and sharing a bed. Yo, these 2 bedrooms next to each other be needing our constant attention. Donna was a nurse and worked from home for an insurance company dealing with medical claims. So I set up the perfect office for her in my crib. A year later, I hit up my homie who works at a CPA firm auditing a bank. I spun him a tale about 2 higher-ups at the bank using company credit cards for shady dates during work hours. He appreciated the heads up and brought up the issue during an audit at the bank. The bank president didn't want to make a big deal about it, but they fired both employees for fraud. They also told their insurance company about the theft and now the bond company is going after Sarah and Keith to get back the bank's money. The company wouldn't let Sarah and Keith work together anymore, basically banning them from banking jobs nationwide. After Sarah lost some of her retirement savings, they had to move out of their fancy apartment. So, this guy Keith is in deep shit because his credit card got scammed by some bank. On top of that, his financial troubles are getting worse because his wife and kids are gonna be taking a big chunk of his money when he gets a job again. It sucks that he didn't get a prenup. Sarah works as a secretary for a divorce lawyer, so she knows a ton about the legal and social stuff that comes with divorces. She's really good at helping out the clients. After spending all day dealing with other people's divorce drama, she just goes back to her tiny apartment and chills. She keeps kicking herself for how badly her marriage ended. She doesn't seem interested in the rich businessmen and doctors she thought she should have married instead of me. My investments turned out to be worth over $2 million by the end of the year, so it's looking like a good year. Especially since I'm getting married to Donna in mid-June. Make sure to subscribe to our channel so your partner doesn't cheat on you, and stay tuned for the next story because this one is a snooze fest. Yo, if you're under 18, don't even try to listen to the next one. Seriously, don't even think about it. Just skip it, okay?